different order, right? Okay, so let's look at the second one. So for the second one, what's the first thing we need to do to get y by itself? Subtract 3x. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. Okay? This will cancel. We're left with negative 5y equals 10 minus 3x. Okay? What's my next step to getting y by itself? Divide by negative 5. Awesome. And if I divide here, I'm going to divide this whole piece by negative 5. And I see some people write it this way. So make sure that you divide each part by negative 5, right? So then when we rewrite it, we're left with y equals 10 divided by negative 5 minus 3x divided by negative 5. Okay, I heard it out there somewhere, negative 2. So we're going to be left with negative 2. So we have y equals negative 2. Can this fraction be simplified at all? No. Can we simplify the signs, though? So we have two negatives. What does that make it? Positive. So I'm going to put plus 3/5 x. I like writing it like this instead of 3x over 5 because this helps me see that my slope is 3/5. I don't want to get confused and think that it's 3. It's 3/5. Cool? All right. What's up? So for number 3, what's my first step to getting y by itself? Add 4x, because it's negative, so we're going to do the opposite. So we add 4x to both sides, and we're left with what on the left side? Negative y. Don't drop that negative. So negative y equals 3 plus 4x. Okay, what's my last step? Divide by what? Divide by negative 1. Whole thing by negative 1. Okay, then we split it up, so we're left with y equals, what's 3 divided by negative 1? Negative 3. Okay, and then 4x divided by negative 1. Negative 4x. Awesome. And if you want to rewrite that with the x term first, that's fine. Just don't forget that your negative and your signs go with each term. Okay? Last but not least, what's our first step? Subtract. Okay, I heard subtract 4y. We can do that way. So subtract 4y. Subtract 4y. Woo. Okay, so if we subtract 4y, then what do we have on the left side? X minus 20. Awesome, is equal to what? 0 minus 4y, which is the same thing as just negative 4y. Okay, my last step. Yep, divide by what? Negative 4. Okay? So what happens over here? We're going to cancel. We're left with y. Y equals what? Okay, positive 5. This would be a plus 5. Negative 20 divided by negative 4 is positive 5. What imaginary number is in front of x? 1. So I would leave negative 1/4 x. The reason, again, why I like to write it this way is because if I left it like, if you want to, you can, but I know I used to make this mistake. Some people leave it like this, x over negative 4, and then they tell me that the slope is negative 4. But that's not what the slope is. The slope is negative 1/4 x. So that's why I like writing it the other way. So I'm going to go back to that. So instead, I like leaving it as negative 1/4 x because it's easier to see my slope. Cool? Great. So before we move on to the next part of the notes, I want to go over that quiz from yesterday because a lot of mistakes we kind of saw throughout were the same ones throughout everybody. So the first thing we would do when we do 2 points is label, label, label. Say it with me. Come on, there's like 40 of you. Label, label, label. Label, label, label. And so when I do that, remember what letter comes first in the alphabet, X or Y? X, right? So some of us were labeling incorrectly. So first it's X1, and then the first Y, second X, second Y. So double check on your check for understanding to see if you got that correct. So first make sure that you label correctly because that was the one thing that we saw people did incorrectly and it got you the wrong answer. Then next thing we do is plug it in, plug it in. And we'll always give you this equation in Algebra 1 because it's on your formula sheet. It looks something like that. And so what is my Y2? 6 minus, what's your Y1? 5. And then your X2 is 0 minus, negative. Is this negative? There we go. That's another thing you could have done wrong because it could have written the problem wrong just like this kid. Now, some of you guys just did 0 minus 2 like I was about to do, and that would have gotten you the wrong answer too. And so now what is 6 minus 5? 1. And what's a negative and a negative make? Positive. So what's 0 plus 2? And is that reduced? Can I reduce this? Nope. So this is my answer. Remember, you can always click that ND button, and it will reduce it for you. So you can type it right into that ND button. So that was the first answer to that quiz. The second one was a kind of a struggle for us. And so it was a struggle because the coordinate plane didn't look the same. So I want to make sure we understand this one too. So here's my 2 points right here. They want you to find the slope. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to figure out, okay, are we rising or running from the left to the right? Are we going up to get to here or down? Down. How many are we going down? 2. And so because we're going down 2, my rise would be down 2. When we're running, how many would I have to run? 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, we always count the spaces. Some people just forgot the negative also. Remember, if it's going down, we know it's negative. Now, can I reduce that fraction? Negative 2 over 4. What number goes into both of them? 2. And even if you did ND on your calculator and you put negative 2 as the numerator and 4 as the denominator, it would reduce it for you. And so you should have ended up with negative 1 over 2. And so some people, it was just a little mistake, like you forgot a negative. Some people just left it like this and didn't reduce. And some people just didn't understand because the coordinate plane looks a little bit different. And we want to make sure we're seeing different types of, the coordinate planes aren't always going to look the same, especially if you have that interim coming up. And so we want to make sure you see, like, sometimes it will look something like this. Sometimes it will look like the ones on your paper. Does that make a little bit more sense? Okay, cool. So knowing that, now we're going to go back to the notes for today. And so we're going to go back to the first one. So open it up, and today we're going to be learning how to graph linear equations. And so the equation we're always going to look at when we're graphing is y equals mx plus b. It always has to be in slope-intercept form, so it's on there. We're doing this right on there, yeah. It always has to be in slope-intercept form in order to graph. So we're starting with the first one. We already got it into slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 2x plus 5. And so the first thing you're going to do is plot the v. So what is our y-intercept here? What number would be our y-intercept? 5. So circle 5, maybe in a different color. I'm going to use purple. And remember, the biggest mistake I see, a lot of us remember it, is plotting on the x-axis.
Remember, we're plotting on the y-axis, and we remember it's a y-axis because I can make a y with it like that. Yeah.
You can do it the other one too, like y equals 5.
Yeah, you can do y equals 5 minus 2x, but you need to know that constant, that number that's by itself, is the y-intercept. So as long as you understand that, it doesn't matter which order. And so the first thing I'm going to do is plot my b, which is 5. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and plot it right on the y-axis. So the first thing you're going to do on that first graph is plot your b. I have a whole juju on that beat song, so y equals mx plus b. If I have time, I can do it, but because you guys have such a short period, I want to make sure you got this down. So the first thing you do is plot that b. Then the slope is -2. Now, how do we write that as a fraction? -2 over 1. 1, right? And so if you see just a number like this, make sure you put it over 1. And so my slope is right here. So after you plot the b, we're starting at that initial value, that y-intercept. And so it's negative, so would I be going up or down? Down. So I'd rise -2, or go down 2 over 1. And we always go to the right. Plot. And I'm just showing you what I'm doing. You don't need to draw the arrows. So from here, I went down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. And you can keep going. Down 2 over 1. I'm not going to make you do it every single time, plot every single point on there, but the more you do, the more accurate it will be. The last thing you do is you draw a line that goes through all the points like this. Does that make sense? So even if you're looking at this one, see how she left it so the slope was right here? That's fine. I just need to remember the constant is the number by itself for your b. So which number is by itself here? -2. So the first thing you got to do is plot the y-intercept, which remember it's always up and down. So I would go down 2, and I plot my y-intercept. Then my slope right here is 3 over 5. So remember, it's rise over run. So you're going to rise 3, since it's positive, run 5. And remember, run, see how they all start with R? I just always remember right. So I always go, a lot of people go left and things like that. Rise, run, right. So I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And plotting. So I went rose 3, and I ran 5. I always go to the right. Then I just draw a line that goes through those 2 points. And so that means any point that falls on this line is a solution. So like we learned about equations. Yeah. So this was the delta math. I think for some reason it said 3.4. I changed it to 3.5. But this was the delta math that you're literally just plotting and doing this exactly. Right. Let's do the next 2 together, and then you're going to have time to practice. So I'm going to rewrite it so x is in front. So -4x minus 3. So I can see the y-intercept is -3, right? And so I would start by plotting that on the y-axis. I keep saying y-axis because what I see wrong is a lot of people start on the x-axis. Now you always start at this middle point and go down 3. Who knows what that middle point is called, where it's 0, 0? Origin. That is on your tests. So I would make sure to kind of remember that this dot right here is called the origin. Maybe put that on your paper. We always start at the origin. And so from the origin, I'm going to go down 3, and that's my y-intercept. So 0, 0. I just remember origin starts with the O. It looks like 0, 0, 0 is your origin. Then my slope is -4. So it's -4 over what? 1. Yeah, because some people just go down 4 and not over 1, and that wouldn't be a -4 slope. And so do you guys see? I can go down 4. So let's go right here. 1, 2, 3. And see how it goes down here? Like that? 4. See how it's not on the graph anymore? And over 1. And so you can see that it's going to be going in this direction, right? And so what you can do if it's not on the graph is go the opposite way. So let's extend it the other direction. So instead, we're going to do the opposite. Let's go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the left 1. That will extend your line for you. So it looks, I mean, my lines aren't straight, but it will extend the line for you so that it's still a negative slope. So that's only if you can't fit it on there. So if you can't fit it on there, I want to make sure I know the direction the line should be going in, which is down because it's a negative slope. But you can also go up, and left is considered negative. And so a positive over negative, it's still a negative slope. And so you always probably want to draw your little man right here and make sure if they're nice negative, they're running down the hill, you know you did it right because it's a negative slope. So when it comes to that, I would just double check by making sure your man is kind of going down. Last one, I'm going to plot my B. My B is, my y-intercept is 5. So I'm going to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's that 0, 0 point called? Origin, good. You can tell that's on your test, so I want to make sure you know it. And this is the y-axis. What is this called? X-axis, right? And so this is your y-intercept, your B. Then since it's negative, are you going up or down? Down, right? So you go down 1 and always to the right, over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To extend the line, remember, we can always do the opposite. We can go up 1 and over 4 the other direction. It just extends the line. So it looks like this. Yeah. Yeah, I would always just remember positive up, negative down. Always go to the right, except if you can't fit it, you can go the opposite direction. So if it's negative, go up and then to the left. But you should be able to extend your line, and it should, when you plot that point, it should be able to flow like a regular slope. So if I put it on the wrong side, like right here, you could see that wouldn't look like a diagonal line. Does that sound good? Okay, one more thing that's I want you to look at your paper that says graphing linear equations review. This is going to be our practice for today. And so you're just going to be practice graphing, but I want you to see a few things real quick. So first of all, right here, what is the slope? What's the invisible coefficient next to x? 1. Or 1 over 1. If there is no y-intercept, what is the y-intercept? 0. So what point would it start at? What's that called? The origin, right? So if there's no coefficient next to x, if there's no constant after the slope, it's automatically 0, 0. Now, don't confuse that with this right here. You see where it says y equals 2? See how the x is missing? That just means all of the y's are 2. So when I'm looking at this right here, y, is that up and down or side to side? Up and down, right? So I'm going to go to where y equals 2, 1, 2, and plot a point. So I'm at y equals 2. And don't confuse this with y equals 2x, because it's not y equals 2x. And so that means all these y's equal 2. And so you're just going to draw a straight line like that. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So if it says y equals 2, that just means every single y equals 2. What type of line is that? Is that horizontal or vertical? Horizontal, right? Like I remember when you look up at the horizon, it's like side to side. So I would know this is a horizontal line. Now my slope, what letter could I write with this? Remember from yesterday? What letter could I write that starts with the number 0, right? And so I could write a z with it, and because of that, I know my slope is 0. What if my slope was up and down? What's that called? Undefined. Undefined, and that's vertical, right? So you can see vertical, undefined. The letters kind of look alike. You know if it's a vertical up and down line, the slope is undefined.
So I got a question. How from x
Yes, if it's x equals 3, that means all the x's equal 3. That would be vertical. And so what would the slope be? Undefined. Yeah, and you can always pick 2 points and find the slope, and you would be able to see under a calculator. Now, what's the y-intercept here? Right here. What's the y-intercept? 2. So how do I write that as a point? 0, comma 2. Now over here, Christopher was saying, okay, if x equals -3, here's where x equals -3, and I know all my x's are going to equal -3. Now, does this have a y-intercept? No. What's the slope? What letter can I make with it? Undefined, right? So if I can make a u out of it like that, it's undefined. And I know it's a vertical line because it's going up and down. Even if you didn't remember this, remember you can go rise over run. So if I went here to here, I would rise 1 and run 0. When you put that in your calculator, remember it says error. If you get error as your slope in your calculator, you know automatically it doesn't exist. It's undefined. Does that make sense? There is none. Because it doesn't cross the line. What? Oh, I put it on the wrong one. Sorry. So what I'm going to have you guys do is practice this on here. Here we go. Undefined, vertical, none. And so you're practicing it on here, so make sure you're graphing correctly. Remember, there has to be in slope-intercept form. And I'm going to have my answer key at that desk right over there, so you can stamp it. As soon as you get all your stamps for each one, you guys can get a brain buck. And then we're going to do our check for understanding right after that. And so, did you guys want me to show you the preview of Delta Math real quick, just so you know what you're doing? Okay, so the Delta Math, if you guys get done early, is just straightforward this. So you would start with your y-intercept, which is 2. So I would point right here, and then I'd go down 2 because the slope's negative over 3. And that's it. So you're just plotting the equation. And so I'll show you one more. How do I get that? So where would I start at? What's my y-intercept? 4. So I plot it on there. Down 1 because it's negative, and always to the right 5. So we go down 1 over 5. And if you click, say you did it wrong, see this red button right here? That gets rid of it. So if you did it wrong, you can always do that before you click submit. So I go down 1 because it's rise over 5. And here's my little man. I can see it's nice negative, so it's going down. And then you just click submit answer. It's only 5 questions. And that's your homework, Delta Math. So it's pretty straightforward.